So I wouldn't agree that it's 99% and 1% that are going, but it does say that the path to hell is basically broad and many people travel down it, and then there's a narrow path that leads to heaven. But God gave people free will. He gave them their own choice. He had a plan for them even when he created them, but man can choose to go their own way. God doesn't force himself. If God removed free will, then there wouldn't be love. So
Welcome back to the Lord Scrub channel. I am the host, Lord Scrub himself, and I love this video from Facebook because it gets the mind thinking about the idea of what God's plan is and why are some people rejected from that plan. So the title is, if God is omnipotent or omniscient and omnipotent, why would he select 1% to go to heaven? This is this person seemingly inquiring of Christianity, and this is obviously a street preacher.
No, it's not related to any of this. I just have a general question. So I've asked this of a couple of different preachers, a couple of different leaders in the church, and they're never able to give me a straight answer. So I want to see your opinion about it. If God is omniscient and omnipotent, he created everything, right?
yes.
Okay, so God is all-knowing, all-powerful. Why would he create this reality knowing that 99% of humans that he created would end up burning in hell? Why would he choose a select 1% to go to heaven with him? Why would he design it this way?
So 99% and 1%, that's not anywhere like biblically or anything like that. So I wouldn't agree that it's 99% and 1% that are going, but it does say that the path to hell is basically broad and many people travel down it, and then there's a narrow path that leads to heaven. But God gave people free will. He gave them their own choice. He had a plan for them even when he created them, but man can choose to go their own way. God doesn't force himself. If God removed free will, then there wouldn't be love. So it's not so much that God made it that way, it's that many people choose to go their own way.
So you're saying that he's not all-powerful then?
No, he is all powerful, but he's given people free will, and he doesn't force his power on people. He won't force you to choose to love him. He's not going to force her or him. He's not going to force us to love him, but he's given us full free will.
You can kind of see it in her eyes there a little bit. Like she's kind of scoping him out. She's probably heard something like this similar before. Right? This idea of human free will. But I think many preachers, and I should try this approach. Something like this. Okay, can a police officer, because he has the power to force you to do something against your will? So if he says go rob a bank, you'll do it. The answer is no, right? Or say your parents, right? Your overbearing parents. Like when you're 18, can they force you not to do something or to do something against your will? The answer is no. So if the answer is no, despite the power difference or maybe the authority difference between human beings, right? The police officer, law enforcer can't enforce you to break the law, despite the power of the tools on his belt. A device that has the little, it could shoot hot metal like faster than sound, right? Or you hit a little pop noise. And or another device has a little electrocution portion of it. It's like, despite having all that power, he can't force you to do something you don't want to do, especially when you enforce your choice. And so if we recognize that amongst human beings, or say, for example, let's make this more practical. Like, given that she's a woman, can her boyfriend just essentially force her to do something she doesn't want to do? Now, the answer is no. That'd be abuse. Obviously, we get the cops involved in the courts and send that bastard to jail. Forgive my language, but I'm like, no, it's like we literally sit like that's not how these things go, despite having the power to do such things. So God's omnipresence, omniscience, his omnipotent, basically his status as almighty doesn't dictate what choice you will make. And if we recognize we have free will, then by default, hell is a choice. I mean, you can't say God didn't. You can't say God chose you for hell. If anything, one of my favorite verses that Jesus says is literally, you already stand condemned. Like unbelievers already stand condemned, but those who believe have escaped the condemnation. So you're already in hot water, and God's choice is to be benevolent to you. And if God's choice is to be benevolent to you, will you respond and cooperate with said grace? And then obviously we could break down the idea of this quote unquote absolute 1% of humanity versus the 99 being left behind, God choosing and selection. There is something called predestination. There is something called election. Don't get me wrong, there's many different perspectives on this doctrine and teaching. The point is that God chose something from the foundation of the world preserved unto himself. Now, the only question between predestination, election, and everybody else, and I guess the argument between free will is, can people be added to that predestination plan? Can the choice to surrender, cooperate in the now, make you essentially accounted with the election and predestination crowd? Some denominations say yes, some denominations say no. I would say that in the cosmic grand scheme of the cosmic plan of everything else, I think people look too outwardly, because no matter who's right or who's wrong about the predestination side of things, the point is that is the explanation, the grand explanation, when everything is all said and done. And yes, this has a lot of bearing in the present, but between you and me, the real mechanism here is, will you choose to obey Jesus? Will you choose to submit to Jesus Christ? Will you choose to make him Lord? Give him your life. You know that same phrase, give your life to Christ. And so that's what's interesting about this. Like, she conflates the idea of, oh, because God's powerful, like he should be able to just perfectly enforce his creation a certain way. But I think what people miss, and this is another element of the conversation, is who's to say he isn't? Like, you going to heaven or hell is not outside of his plans. If anything, there's much scriptural evidence that demonstrates, hey, wait a minute, like God's prepared either way. Like, if you want to go to hell, that's part of his plan. If you want to go to heaven, that's part of his plan as well. It's like, you choosing hell is not overpowering the Almighty God. You're just choosing one of the selection options he has laid out for you. If you want to persist in evil, well, now he has a place for that. If you want to escape the filth and depravity and be purified, well, he has a plan for that. And so I do love these conversations, because it's not that God is selecting the 1%. It's that in many ways the 1% is selecting whatever choice God lays out. It's like the blue pill, the red pill. Are you going to choose the Lord, or are you just going to walk away and think that's making your own choice? No, like there is no third option. You automatically choose one side based on your choices, and that's the scariness of, I would say, the absolute control of God. Because if he is omniscient, if he is omnipotent, and nothing out of creation is essentially a foreign or unaware factor to him, then by default everything is going according to plan, regardless of the choices you make. It's like that one character. The game was rigged from the start. You think you can break the rules, but no. You part of even thinking you break the rules is part of the rule system. You just didn't get to page 1057, if God will even allow you to see page 1057. But all that rambling aside, let's finish this, because I do have one verse that perfectly, I would say, encapsulates this entire discussion.
Revealed himself to us. He sent his son Jesus to die for us. He reveals his love to us. He even makes his son to shine on the good and the evil. So God is doing good things even in people who have rejected him. They still experience good things in life, and that's because of him, because he loves them, but they have free will if they're going to love him back or not.
I have a question though. This is not related.
Okay, so that was it. And I hope that was a good interaction. I hope she does at some point come to the Lord, as many will. But nevertheless, let's get into that verse I was talking about. So this is Luke chapter 6, verse 46. And this is Jesus saying, "But why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do the things which I say?" And I think this is the crucial question to humanity. Like, if you want to actually entertain the idea of God's existence, you got to ask yourself, the individual, why don't you obey him? Why don't you follow him? Why don't you submit to him? Because everybody else could have their own reasons and situations and contexts and history and thoughts and desires, and all of that is independent from you, the individual, right? All of that has no bearing on you, because you don't know what's in their hearts, you don't know what's in their minds, you don't know what their soul truly desires. The real question is, why don't you want to become part of the one, like 1%? Why aren't you the one choosing to go against the grain and just like in all the best ways and follow the Lord despite the broadness of the gateway to destruction? And so I'll leave you guys with that. What do you guys think? Do you think she was hitting something? Do you think that do you think she poses a good question, or maybe she look into history and see some of the responses? Because with this religion being 2,000 years old, so many different philosophers, theologians, church fathers, different perspectives from many different founded and sometimes unfounded positions. Like these things tend to quite literally be entertained over time and by multiple different people. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate you for getting this far, and see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to me ramble.